The story opens in the middle of what looks like a sword duel. A blonde noble named Weiss is laughing arrogantly, mocking the game's protagonist and declaring that a mere commoner could never defeat someone of noble blood like him. As the referee announces the start of the duel, the two immediately rush forward. Weiss charges first, ordering his opponent to watch closely as the fool who defied him is humiliated in front of everyone. Next panel, Weiss is lying unconscious on the ground. His servant is desperately calling his name from the side of the arena, while the protagonist calmly stands beside him, farming aura as he slides his sword back into its sheath. And this is where we're properly introduced to the character. His name is Weiss Vincent, better known as the villainous noble. From this defeat onward, Weiss loses everything. Eventually, he's reduced to a mere servant of the Demon King, only to be used as a living shield and discarded, dying a meaningless death. As our protagonist is playing the game and reaches the scene of Weiss's death, something strange happens. He suddenly falls out of his chair and wakes up reincarnated as Weiss himself. The scene cuts. We're now shown Weiss torturing a maid. His expression is grotesque as he licks his lips, whip in hand. Suddenly, his face stiffens in shock. He looks at the girl tied up in front of him and freezes. He has no idea who she is or where he even is. Panic sets in as he realizes she's bound and he's holding a whip. Just moments ago, he was playing a video game, and now there's a woman tied up in a lewd position right in front of him. The maid nervously asks, "Weiss-sama, what's wrong?" As if this kind of treatment is completely normal. Our protagonist thinks to himself that she's unbelievably beautiful and strangely familiar. He turns toward a mirror, and the moment he sees his reflection, he screams. He's become Weiss Vincent, the abusive villain noble from the school fantasy game Noblesse Oblige. He explains that it's a school fantasy game he's cleared multiple times. In the school arc, Weiss exists solely to stand in the way of the protagonist, Alan. He's the lowest kind of scum, using his noble status to torment the weak without mercy. After being utterly defeated by Alan, Weiss ends up serving the Demon King, only to die as a disposable shield. Back in the present, trapped in Weiss's body, he looks again at the girl tied in front of him and realizes, this must be Lilith Scarlet, the maid Weiss regularly tortured in the game. His teeth clench in horror as he remembers that this is the life he's inherited. He can't understand how anyone could do something so cruel to such a beautiful girl. He reaches out to untie her, then hesitates, wondering if it would look suspicious. But he immediately shakes that thought away. He can't leave her like this. Out loud, he mutters, "Well, I think I'll stop here for today." And he unties her. He notices the bruises around her neck and hurriedly heals them with magic. Lilith is trembling in fear. The wounds nearly vanish instantly, revealing a healing spell that, according to the game, was usable from the very beginning, but deliberately hidden by the developers. Thankfully, he remembers it from a strategy book. Trying to sound casual, he tells her not to get the wrong idea. He only wanted to practice healing magic. It's not like he did it for her or anything. Lilith suddenly starts crying and thanks him over and over. She tells him she was shocked to learn he could even use healing magic. He finds it unsettling. She's thanking him, even though he was the one who hurt her in the first place. He wonders if Weiss had broken her to the point of absolute obedience. After a pause, he apologizes sincerely for everything Weiss had done until now, and promises he'll never treat her that way again. Lilith just stares at him, unable to comprehend what's happening. The scene changes. Weiss is sitting at the dining table as the Vincent family's butler, Zavis Aiden, serves his meal. Zavis internally prepares himself. Normally, Weiss would complain about the taste and throw the plate on the floor. Instead, Weiss calmly tells him he's been wrong until now, that treating food like garbage was shameful. He says the meal is perfect, as always. Zavis freezes, then erupts in tears, thanking him profusely. Soon, every servant in the room starts crying, calling Weiss wonderful. Weiss, meanwhile, is completely confused. He doesn't think he did anything special. He guesses they must think Weiss has finally grown up. They're so moved that they don't even notice he's a completely different person inside. Realizing just how awful the old Weiss must have been, he decides he'll never make them sad again. He takes the whip and heads to the exterior furnace. As a noble, Weiss is required to enroll in a prestigious academy at the age of 15. The entrance exam is only 2 years away. He remembers that after losing to Alan during the combat test, his reputation collapses, and from there, everything goes downhill. But if he doesn't lose that fight, the future could change. That means he has only one choice. Even if it takes everything he has, he will avoid the path to ruin. With that resolve, he throws the whip into the furnace and lights the fire. The next day, Weiss is resting against the base of a tree after training when someone suddenly calls his name from behind, startling him. He turns around to see Milk Avidus, an S-rank adventurer. She asks him bluntly whether he's even taking this seriously. He admits he is, but says he can't move anymore and asks for a short break. Milk tells him he can rest if he wants to be known as a loser the moment he enrolls in the academy. Weiss explains that he used his family's connections to hire an incredible instructor. Milk Avidus normally appears only at the very end of the game and is considered the swordsman closest to being the strongest in the royal capital. He asked her to forget he's a noble and train him without mercy. Now he realizes she's terrifying and extremely sadistic. Lilith approaches and hands him an item he requested earlier, a headband with words written on it. When she asks what it means, Weiss answers, "I will do my best," to the point of dying. We're told that Noblesse Oblige is infamous as a death game, a brutally difficult title that can only be cleared through repeated playthroughs. Neglecting preparation leads to immediate expulsion or death, so Weiss can't waste a single second. He's never trained his body before, not in this life and not in his previous one, so exhaustion hits him fast. Still, he believes physical conditioning is essential to survive as both a swordsman and a mage. He starts each day with sword forms, then endless running to build stamina, then brutal muscle training. His expressions are so miserable they'd scare people at the gym. From morning until night, he repeats the routine. 2 weeks later, under a full moon at the Vincent estate, Zevis serves him another meal, this time packed with protein, exactly as Weiss instructed. Weiss apologizes for burdening him despite how busy he is. He explains that while injuries can be healed with magic, there's no shortcut when it comes to diet. Training the body requires proper meals. Thanks to Zevis's support, Weiss manages to endure even overwork. 3 weeks into training, Weiss feels like every single day lasts a month. Yet before he realizes it, the sun is already setting again. Now that he's adjusted to physical training, he calls for his magic instructor. Exhausted from Milk's harsh sword training, he hopes the magic teacher will be kind. Zevis escorts the instructor inside. She immediately throws her mage hat to the ground. "My name is Milk Avidus." Weiss collapses to the floor in despair. Milk calmly explains that she's a master of both swordsmanship and magic. Weiss whispers to Zevis that he asked for a kind teacher. Zevis replies that Milk is a genius capable of using 2 of the 4 great magic attributes. There's no better choice. Milk asks if he wants her to be gentle. She somehow hears his whispering. She promises to teach magic gently. The next day, she's screaming at him not to close his eyes and to channel more mana. Weiss wonders where her kindness went, thinking this might be worse than sword training. Milk tells him to keep going for another 2 hours. To use magic, one needs mana, and the only way to increase mana is relentless repetition until collapse. Later, Weiss is seen floating unconscious down a river, with Lilith running after him. From that day on, wooden sword sparring is added to the routine. Milk strikes him directly in the side, criticizing his openings. Lilith heals him, telling him she'll support him with magic, so he just has to keep going. He thanks her, and immediately gets beaten down again. Lying on the ground, he wonders how someone as lazy as he once was can work this hard. In his past life, he was a living corpse, running away whenever things got difficult. So what changed? 2 months pass. Milk approaches him as he wipes sweat from his face and gently pats his head. She tells him he achieved the goal in just 2 hours, a genuine accomplishment. Blushing, Weiss asks if this is what she meant by being gentle. She nods. Every time he achieves a goal, she'll reward him with a pat. He mutters that the carrot-to-stick ratio seems unfair. Milk smiles and says it isn't. Lilith approaches with a lunchbox. Milk remarks that while she holds the stick, Weiss has already received plenty of carrots from others. That's when Weiss realizes it. The reason he can keep going is because of everyone around him. Lilith, who supports him unconditionally. Zevis, who prepares his meals. Milk, who hardens her heart for his growth. Without them, he would never have made it this far. The old Weiss and his past self only lived for themselves. That's why no one ever supported or scolded them. All he needed was love, both sweet and harsh. From that day on, he decides he won't live only for himself, to avoid ruin, to avoid death, to avoid making those who support him sad, for himself, and for everyone else. He will avoid the path of destruction. The next day, Milk raises the goal to 4 hours and tells him to keep going until he dies. And Weiss thinks to himself, even so, this is still tough. End of chapter.